Hello everyone! Today we're going to be talking about selling signed books online because, of course, with everything that has happened in 2020, you can't do in-person events, and for some authors, that's a huge loss of income. So today I'm going to walk you guys through how I sell my signed books online. And of course, this is also a friendly reminder that from October 5th to October 9th, I'm having an online digital book signing where we are going live basically every day here on YouTube. This is the only day where things are pre-recorded, and you can get 15% off of all my signed books. So again, stay tuned and I'll show you how exactly I put this all together. I'm going to tell you how you can set up your own online book signing and how to figure out the shipping, as well as how to do fun things to get people to want to buy your signed books. If you want weekly videos on writing, book marketing, and book publishing, then be sure to hit that subscribe button as well as the bell notification icon. So this is the first time I've filmed a video like this, pre-filmed something and done it in a screen share this way, but I really wanted to walk you guys through everything that I do. So bear with me. This video will probably be a little bit longer, but I've got a lot of information to share. I personally used to do book signings at least once a month, whether that be a one-day event or an entire weekend. And at those book signings, I could make a profit from anywhere to like $100 to $400, and that's profit. So that's after the cost of like paying for my booth and product and all that. So that is 100% profit. Now, because of 2020 and everything that's happening, that is obviously not an option anymore. So I wanted to get a little creative and figure out how to do my own book signings. So that's what I'm doing this week. I decided to do my own digital book signing. So what does that entail? So basically, I pretended like I was having my own little digital Comic-Con where every day I had panels and I reminded people to go ahead and go buy my signed books. So yesterday I talked all about Essence and how the publishing process went for that, and also how I kind of faced a lot of bullying when I published Essence because I was so young and just circumstances of that age. So go ahead and watch that video if you haven't yet already. I'm also having a different live stream every day this week, so make sure you check out the live streams for the rest of this week. But again, today we're talking about how to set up your book to be sold online. And first things first is that you have to choose a website. So there are a few different options. I personally use Shopify. You can also use the Square app, you can use Wix, and you can use WordPress. Wix is the only one I don't have experience with, so that's the only one where today I won't be able to give you guys examples. But for the rest of them, I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to share my screen. Actually, I'm going to share it this way. Okay, so I'm going to go over to Square. So this is a website I created through Square, and you can actually create this for free. The only thing that will like cost you money is if you want to get really good deals on shipping costs, and then if you want to purchase your domain, and different things like that. But I personally, so like I said, I use the Square app and I use it on my phone for when I want to do in-person book signings. You know, you guys know what I'm talking about. So it's a little adapter that goes on here so you can swipe credit cards. Well, Square is also awesome because they will help you create an online storefront as well. So one day I created this one because as you'll watch this video, you'll learn that I've invested a lot of time into figuring out the most efficient ways for me to sell my signed books. And this was one of the ways that I figured out. So this is a storefront that I created, and then we have the books down here and then social media and stuff, and you can see powered by Square. And again, I do want to mention that none of the stuff I'm talking about today is sponsored. I wish it was, but it's not. So I'm just giving you my honest opinion for everything. So the reason why I personally didn't go with Square for my storefront is just because I use the Square app for in-person book signings. So if I were to make things perfect for my online storefront, it would have kind of changed things for my back end storefront for when I do book signings, and it was just a little complicated. So I prefer to, and at the end of the day go with Shopify. But otherwise, I probably would have gone with the Square app because I just found it really user friendly and really just cheap because again, you can create this storefront for free unless you want to customize your domain, which is this right here. And then another option is, let's see, I have WordPress. So this is the back end of my WordPress website. This is www.mandilyn.com, which is originally how I used to sell my signed books, but it got a little bit complicated. You can use, so I use the WooCommerce plugin to do that. And this is kind of what the back end looks like. Please ignore all the excessive like messages alerting me to stuff. I'm one of those people that, yes, I do just ignore them. Unless I can't anymore. So you can see this is a product that I created, which is Essence. And obviously I don't have the storefront anymore, but when you went to like the product page, this was the product page right here. So normally it would be the photo of the book cover, and then we have what it is, and then you scroll down and this is the description. Now, of course, you can customize this more because obviously I had like started and then abandoned it, and then, yeah. So this isn't what it would look like at the end of the day, but it just kind of gives you a vague idea of what to expect. Now, last but not least, this is my storefront, which is my current storefront, which obviously has the most effort poured into it, so it looks the best. And it's through Shopify. Now, I already had a Shopify website because I do the book launch planner, and you can see that here. Like, you can see shop the planner, shop the stickers, shop the signed books. So Shopify is probably the most expensive option because they do have a monthly plan, but it's also the most user-friendly. So if you're just selling signed books, I might not recommend Shopify, but if you already happen to have a Shopify, then I'd say go for it. I really, really, really wanted to sell my books under the mandilyn.com domain, but I just couldn't do that easily. So I just figured, you know what? At the end of the day, I am all under one umbrella, one branch, and as long as everything links to the correct places, I don't think it's the biggest deal that the URL is thebooklaunchplanner.com because that's still a URL I own, and maybe if I'm lucky, when people shop signed books, they might buy a planner, they might buy some stickers while they're at it. So once you have chosen your website, and again, I can't talk about Wix because I don't have any experience with Wix, so that's something you might want to look into as well. But once you choose which hosts you want to go with, then you can go ahead and start adding products. So let's start with Square. So this is what the back end of Square looks like, and this is how it's set up for me right now. And this is literally just the simplest way for me to set it up, and it's set up kind of not the best way because it's just set up for in-person sales. So when people are shopping with me, they obviously don't see these photos. I literally just took photos of my book covers at a book signing one day to add the photo, so it was easier for me to select things when I'm on my phone. But when you go ahead and select on items, you can go in there and edit things. You can upload the photo here. You can say whether it's a physical item or a digital item, because if it's a physical item, then Square will know that they need to take down shipping information at checkout and also charge for shipping. You can add the title of the book. You can add the description. And as you can see, you can do different things like bold, italic, bullets, links, all of that. You can decide whether you want the product to be visible or not. So like there's just odd instances where you're going to have a product on your website, but you don't want people to be able to buy it. Say like you want to set it up, but you don't want to officially launch the product yet. That's when you would want to hide it. And then fulfillment, that's basically whether you need to ship it or if they can pick it up or if you do local delivery. So as you can see, this is for like a broad range of people who want to have online stores. And then variations is like if you want to do a hardcover version of the book or a paperback. So for this book in particular, Book Sales That Multiply, I only have a paperback. So I don't really have any variations. But if I go back and go to Essence, Essence, on the other hand, does have a variation where we see we have the paperback book and the hardcover book, and they change in price depending on which version you buy. And you can also see here the weight changes as well. So that's another thing, that when you're setting up your item, you want to make sure you weigh it to make sure that you get the shipping costs correct. So when you're setting all of this up, you'll be able to enter the weight. And some places also ask for dimensions, but most places base it just on the weight of the product. I believe it's only WordPress. From what I can remember, only WordPress was the one that asked me for the dimensions of my books as well as the weight of my books. So on the other hand, we have WordPress. So if I go in to edit this product, which is Essence, if it will load. So in here, again, I don't really have anything set up. WordPress is a little more complex, and because you can do so many different plugins on WordPress, things can get a little more confusing, which is why I don't really like it. But really, at the end of the day, why I started with my signed books on WordPress and then got rid of it is truly just because the reports were incredibly annoying. Like, I just wanted to know how many of each product I sold and how much I made every month. And I just wasn't in love with the way WooCommerce does their reports and analytics for that. But as you can see, we can just put everything up here. So we can put the title, we can put the description. If you go down here, this is where things get a little more complicated. So this is where you can put the price of the book, the sale price of the book. You can keep track of inventory. You can set up shipping. So again, you'd put in the weight, you'd put in the dimensions, the shipping class, which honest to God, I don't even know what that is. And there's just a lot of other things like attributes. That's the same thing as like variations, whether or not it's a hardcover versus a paperback book. And the way to set that up is kind of confusing. So I'm not going to talk about it today. I highly recommend, if you end up going with WordPress, to learn it through a different YouTube video that is a better tutorial, because I personally am still confused by WordPress and how all this works. And yeah, so you can just play around with this in WordPress. There's a lot of different things you can do. So let's go to my favorite, which is Shopify. So I'm in the back end of Shopify right now. This is the one that I use. So you'll see that I've put the most effort into it. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Essence. And when I go to Essence, you'll be able to see I've input everything. So I've got the title of the book. I've got about the book. I even put in the book trailer. I put in what Amazon reviewers have to say. So I just put as much info in as I can. And when it comes to images, I personally enjoy putting like the 3D rendering of the product. So it just looks the best. And I'm actually working on doing that with the entire book launch planner website, where I put in the 3D rendering for everything. So it just is very clean, clear, and crisp. So here's the product page right here. And you can see that I've set up the variations. So you can choose whether it's the paperback or the hardcover, and then the price changes dependent on that. You can choose how many you want. Then we have the info about the book here and all of that. So I guess my biggest pet peeve with Shopify is that depending on what theme you choose, and the theme is just like what your website looks like, depending on the theme is dependent on how your product page will look here. And my theme, it just so happens like it lines up everything to just go down. Like I can't put anything underneath here, and it really just bothers me. But I can't do anything about that unless I redesign my entire website, and I'm just not at that point yet. So this is what it would look like. But when I go in here, you can see I have a few different things. So I have the product type is a book, and then I also tag it as a book. And that is so it sorts into these different collections. So I have I have a collection of all my stickers. I have a collection of all the signed books. And then I also designed it so it had this cute little banner here. It doesn't normally have this little banner, but I added it because this was a big event, so I wanted to make it very clear like what the perks were for the event. So once you scroll down past where you can upload the image is where you can add the variants. So it's very clear on Shopify how to do that. So you can see the paperback, the hardcover, the prices, and then if I were to hit edit, you can see even more info. So I can track the quantity here. I've already put in the weight, so it's 16 ounces. And the best way to take the weight of your book is to either, hopefully you have a kitchen scale laying around, or you can purchase a kitchen scale because you're going to need the weight in ounces just because books are so small. So yeah. But really, Shopify is awesome because I personally never really looked at any tutorials for it. I just really started clicking through, and it was super clear on how to use it. So last but not least, let's talk about shipping. So each website is different in terms of shipping. I honestly, when it comes to WordPress, the shipping was very confusing. It calculated the shipping for me based on what I had put for the weight. But sometimes when I went to go ahead and actually pay for the shipping, it didn't always line up correctly. And that could have been on me because, again, obviously, as I talk about WordPress, it's very clear I have no clue what I'm talking about. But the way it works through websites like this is that after you input stuff like the weight of the book and the size of the book, the website will be able to calculate the shipping cost for the customer. And when the customer checks out, they pay for the shipping. That way, when you go to buy the shipping, it should be the same cost, if not a little less for you. So I'm going to show you how it works for Shopify because that's the one I'm most familiar with. So the way you set up shipping in Shopify is that you go to settings, and then you can go ahead and go to shipping and delivery. And this is where you can really customize things. So I have two shipping zones. One is for the United States and the other is for just the rest of the world. So if I click manage rates, you can kind of see that a little bit more in depth. The cool part about this shipping area is that I can also choose what type of shipping I want to use. So as you can see for USPS, I basically use all the shipping. I let my customers choose whether they want first class mail, they want first class package, media mail, which is the cheapest. So that's what most of my customers choose. Parcel select ground, priority mail, and priority mail express. So I can choose that for both, whereas the rest of the world, I only have a few international options, but for, domestic mail, I have all these different options that my customers can choose from. So they can choose how fast they want their package to arrive based on the price or whether they want insurance or whatever. So a handling fee is cost of the shipping materials. So for people who have Shopify stores and Etsy stores, we like to make packaging as cute as possible. So I personally, when I ship out the book launch planner, I wrap things in tissue paper and a sticker. And eventually I want to make it even cuter than that. But you can do stuff like add in a handling fee. So I just add in a $1 handling fee to pay for the cost of my shipping materials. And also as a little buffer, because sometimes, usually it doesn't happen, but sometimes, especially for international shipping, what the customer pays is less than what I will need to pay for shipping just because calculations were off or something like that. But I add in that $1 buffer just in case some sort of oopsie has been made and I'll end up having to pay more for shipping than calculated. So that is the shipping settings. And then we also have that I don't offer local delivery because I don't want people showing up at my house, but I also have everything set up to my P.O. box. So that's another thing. When you're shipping out books, you probably want to get a P.O. box just because you need a return address. And you ideally don't want that return address to be your home address just for privacy reasons. I don't want people to know where I live. I doubt anyone else wants people to know where they live either. So get a P.O. box. I'm lucky my P.O. box in my area was super cheap. So I lucked out in terms of that. Then we have packages. So I've uploaded all the different packages that I use. I actually don't even use this sample box. This is like the default that Shopify uses. But the custom soft pack is what I use for books. It's what I use for the book launch planner. So that's set up as my default. So as you can see, I set up how big it is and how much it weighs. And if I wanted to change that, I can hit edit. If I wanted to add another one, I can hit add package. And then you can see I have two other ones as well. So I have another package and then a stay flat mailer, which is what I use to ship out my stickers. So again, I have all the weights added of these there. And then when it comes to shipping labels, so what you're going to do when you go to ship out a product is that you're going to create a shipping label. So you create a shipping label based on what carrier you want to use. I, for almost everything, use USPS because I ship books. So I'm able to use the medium mail rate. So that's already super cheap to start with. But because I work through Shopify, you can see here, I get huge discounts. So I get discounts for USPS, UPS, and DHL. I very rarely use DHL, but I do know I have some international customers who say they can only ship using DHL. So that's why I keep that in there. So that is how you set up your online store and how you can figure out the shipping situation. And I know even after watching this video that it still might not make a whole ton of sense. And trust me when I say you really just have to play around with it. I've invested a countless amount of hours into figuring out shipping and what was best for me and what was best for my customers, how to get the cheapest prices for my customers. There are some other cool tricks, but if you're an author, odds are you aren't shipping enough to get huge discounts in shippings because sometimes you can like call up USPS and see if you can make a deal with them and be like, hey, I ship out X amount of packages every month. Can you cut me a deal on shipping rates? That is something that is possible, but you have to ship out a lot of packages every month to make that possible. So with that said, how exactly can you make things exciting for your customers and make them actually want to go ahead and buy your books, whether that's a one-time sale or a long-term, you just always have signed books on your website? So I would do kind of what I'm doing. Like this is an experiment for me. I've never done a digital book signing like this, but I'm hoping it will pay off. But basically what I'm doing is that I'm pretending I'm my own little Comic-Con event or whatever, but it's all about me. Yep. So I'm having like daily panels that will remind people that, you know, the sale is going on, and I'm going to talk about the books to make them excited to read them and want to purchase them, and hopefully just encourage them to buy the signed books because I make more when people buy signed books rather than buy a book on Amazon. And that's complicated because Amazon, it's better to have sales on Amazon because you can get a better ranking, but money-wise, it's better to sell through myself because I don't have to give Amazon their cut or anything like that. So it's really like what your personal goals are. But I also think just having a signed book and doing a signed book sale is super exciting. Then there's also, you can add in fun stuff like incentives to buy. So like for me, I did two different things. I did 15% off everything, or I should say 15% off of all my signed books, and then stickers. So I designed these cute, adorable stickers that for every book you buy, you get a sticker. So if you want all 3 stickers, you have to buy all 3 books. So that's my incentive to get people to buy as many books as possible. And then also an incentive is that I had these little buttons made, and I actually got them made for BookCon. But obviously BookCon didn't happen this year. So now I just have these buttons sitting around. And they're cute. And so I'm like, you know what? If people buy a signed book, they're also going to get them buttons. So even if you just buy one book, it'll be 15% off. You'll get a free sticker, and you'll also get a button, and then you also get a bookmark. But like, it's hard to count bookmarks as like an extra item because you can also call a blank sticky note a bookmark or an old receipt a bookmark. So yeah, you get all those things when you buy just one book, but of course, if you want to get more stickers, you can buy more books, and it's also just a matter of everything's 15% off, so buy as much as you can while you still have that sale. So that's another thing. You want to make this time sensitive. You want to make sure that people don't have an excuse to be like, oh, I'll buy it later. Like, make it time sensitive so they're like, I need to buy this now because I won't be able to get the same deal next week. So I think that's going to be it for this video. I hope it was helpful. I hope it wasn't too confusing. It's hard to really show everything without just really getting into the deep nitty-gritty. There are tons of other tutorials out there online. So if you feel like I didn't cover anything, feel free to just further search away on YouTube. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and support this digital book signing by going on my website and buying a signed book. And thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to give the video a thumbs up, comment down below, and subscribe.